Load your boats. We're going off to sea, people. It's time to talk about Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
I'm Sam Mosher, E23's digital director. I'm joined today with
Bryce Cross.
And I'm Jacob Douglas, and I am also scared of water.
Dunkirk will make you scared of water.
Dunkirk is a horror film about water.
We're here to discuss Dunkirk today because it was nominated for 8 Oscars at the 2018 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Score, Best Sound Editing and Mixing, Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, and Production Design. Did I get all those correct?
I think you did. That was impressive. That's a lot. It's 8.
8 nominated. Will it win any of those? That's the real debate.
Swing and miss on some of them.
Okay, so let's start with some technical stuff. Let's knock out some of the boring ones. Well, all awards are important. I don't mean to discredit them. Let's start with Best Production Design. Let's start with the film in general, though. What do we think about Dunkirk? Did we like it? I
really liked Dunkirk. My experience was a little weird, though. I saw it with you.
Yes.
And it was right after. I originally saw it right after an exam, and I remember towards the end I was fading out a little bit, but just because I was so tired. But the last 20 minutes had me so hooked and woke me up, just because it's sort of like rising. Like all the rising conflict comes to a head, and the climax is so great. And then upon further rewatches, I just really enjoyed how they had these 3 stories, telling them at different points in time, and then tying them narratively together. So I think it might be one of my favorite films of the year, if not my favorite. So yeah, I really enjoyed this film.
Jacob?
Dunkirk's one of those movies that didn't blow me away on first viewing, but the more you watch it, the better it gets. I remember the first time I saw it, I was extremely bored. Okay. But then the second time you watch it and you kind of like look for those intricacies of the film, it's an incredibly deep movie. There's a lot going on, and all the production stuff, all the cinematography, the editing, everything like that. That's what makes this movie great. I think that's what elevates it above the rest. All of the practical stuff they did, as far as like blowing up the boats and the fire on the water and stuff like that, and the way they shot it in IMAX. It is incredibly well designed technically. I think Christopher Nolan, maybe Nolan did it a little bit too much, like with the 3 storylines. I think it's a little unnecessary. Okay. That's why like I don't put it in the realm of Best Picture stuff. Like I don't think it's a top Best Picture pick, but I think it will win a lot of awards technically.
I agree with that. Dunkirk was my favorite movie of 2017. It goes way more farther than it needs to. It is, it could have played it very safe. It's a World War II historical picture, and it does so many things so many war movies haven't before. Like you said, some of it can be argued as unnecessary, and I won't argue against that, including the non-linear 3-act structure. But just in terms of other things, that it's more about survival than about the glories and the victories of war. You never really see the enemy. Of course, you see them in enemy ships and planes, but it's so much just about the human element of war and the toll it takes on both people fighting in it and those trying to save those ones that need saving. I love the way it's directed. I love the one single shot at the beginning. It starts with just an adrenaline rush of these guys escaping this town and getting on the beaches of Dunkirk. I love the score. I love the performances, and it's weird because I hated like the first half of it. I was like, what is going on right now? Really? Like, why isn't this, it just wasn't what I expected. And by the end, when all those threads come together and you see what he was building, and you realize that this is a movie about survival and about the human, just like the human condition, about wanting to help others, at least in my opinion. Anyway, I ended up loving it.
And I think that a great thing Dunkirk does is it doesn't glorify combat, whereas I think a lot of war movies do. I think like exceptions could be like Saving Private Ryan. Like great war films don't make combat out to be this heroic, beautiful thing. Like it sucks.
They make it this horrific thing.
Yeah, Dunkirk makes it very apparent that this is not good. No. War is not fun.
And one of the things I think does that is the sound editing and sound mixing.
Yeah.
The way you feel the explosion, you feel the gunfire. I think the best example is when they're in that boat. They've escaped the first boat. They're in a second boat now, and you hear those little bullets ting through
going through the boat.
Yeah. The alternate title for this movie was "I'm on a boat sometimes."
I would say it's noticeable then, and it's also noticeable in the beginning with the single shot when he's running.
Yes.
When the gunfire starts, you can hear it, and it's as loud as if like the gun was like right behind you or right next to your ear. And it also like you can notice the noise of like the bullets whizzing straight past him, and I just thought that was really like poignant, as well as like. Wait, this is for sound mixing
And editing.
And editing, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say all of those noises of war were really well done throughout the film. Everything felt like it had an impact, and maybe that was because like I was viewing it in the IMAX experience, and then the next time I saw it, I had like a whole surround sound system. But I thought it was excellent, the sound design and the editing.
Now, what will win, Jacob?
Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Baby Driver's going to
for
win
sure.
sound editing
For
and
sure,
editing.
for sure. I totally forgot about that.
You can just point to the tequila scene. That is sound editing at its finest. Because, fun fact, the guns they use in those movies, they don't actually fire. They don't make sounds when they shoot them.
Are you referring to Baby Driver?
Yeah, so they have to edit in all those noises and match it up with the music, which is a really unique thing, and the way they shoot it is cool. I recommend buying Baby Driver on Blu-ray and looking at the behind-the-scenes stuff. It's incredible. Anyway.
Subtle endorsement.
I got you, Edgar. Anyway, yeah, production design, I think this movie has a great chance of winning. Like I said earlier, the practical effects, they actually set the water on fire and shot that. That's incredible.
Towards the end with the oil spill?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all those boats and stuff are not CGI, like that's real. That just the scope of that beach they're on is incredible. I just like, that's the movie to me that I like see and I'm like, wow, all this stuff is really.
It felt like a place. I
Right.
mean, you can say the same for like Shape of Water, which I think is a heavy contender in that category.
I think that's set design, right?
Are we talking about production design?
Right.
I don't
Or is it
believe
the
there. I
same
don't believe
thing?
there is a set design category.
Maybe not.
I might be wrong there though. But yes, I think it's between Dunkirk and Darkest Hour when it comes to production design. As one who hasn't seen Darkest Hour, this is just from hearsay and what I've heard from other people. But in terms of just the historical aspect, with both movies, I know the Academy is pretty more lenient towards those kind of things. So I think there'll be a nice kind of split to see which one will win there. Now, one thing you mentioned, the scope of the beach, I think one thing to credit to that is the cinematography of Dunkirk. Does anyone have anything to say on that subject?
I don't think it'll win again.
Because
of Blade Runner 2049, that film has so much going on with the cinematography, with the lighting and the color, the way they shoot, his interactions with his, it's like a hologram girlfriend thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird when you say it out loud. Very, very interesting stuff. And the Academy loves Roger Deakins. So,
who was nominated?
Who did
Runner.
the cinematography for Blade Runner 2049. So I believe he will win.
Now, Hoyt van Hoytema, who I had to actually read off the phone because I wouldn't have known otherwise, I've heard has won before with the Academy, so there are kind of two titans going against each other here. In any other year, I think Dunkirk would be a shoo-in for this category. I think when you think of how tight those cockpits feel, because you're not just in it, they structure it where you're seeing the open blue skies behind them, and it puts it in context of how small these planes and these cockpits are. Think of the scene where the boat is closing in on the dock and the soldiers are trying to swim out before the boat crashes against it. There's just so many shots and creative ways this movie just looks, and like we talked about that first shot at the beginning, that would make it a winner in my mind. I still would love to, but like you said, I think Blade Runner will.
Yeah, I think it's shot incredibly dynamically. There's the shots near the beginning with the single shot. My mind jumps to when they're under like the docks towards the first act. When they're under the docks and they're noticing, I think the ship is either going down and some people are jumping from it. That was a good shot. The tight cockpit shots put you right in the moment, but also showing just like the scope of this air battle by having it way zoomed out and seeing just like the large blue sky, and then the aerial shots of like when the one boat was on fire. I think that it's got fantastic cinematography, but I haven't seen Blade Runner, but I hear that like that's the one that is probably going to win, just because that's what everybody seems to talk about when describing that movie. So I'm not sure it's going to win. So
Now, one category, we've said a lot of, I think it's going to lose to this. One category I think it sends a very good shot in is Best Score, which Hans Zimmer is nominated for Dunkirk.
Yeah, it's got two movies where I think the competition is pretty steep, and that is Phantom Thread and Shape of Water. Phantom Thread's score is incredible. Written by, what's the guy from Radiohead?
York.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. But I love this score, and I love the way they used Christopher Nolan's watch as like kind of the cue. That ticking really kind of adds to the buildup. And this movie is really, really loud, and the score helps that. I think that really puts the viewer in that space, and it helps because Dunkirk is an experience when you watch it. You feel it more so than just viewing it, and I think that the score has a lot to do with it.
If anything, I think that definitely nets it sound mixing. I think sound editing will go to Baby Driver, but maybe at the very least Dunkirk will win for sound mixing.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on the score?
I'm a huge fan of just Hans Zimmer's like scores, especially with his
Pirates of the Caribbean theme.
Well, yeah, but definitely, definitely with Christopher Nolan's films. Like you notice it in The Dark Knight, and definitely in this film, where the tension is like built up with the music, and that really like, I think that really aided in the climax of the film. Absolutely. And I'm not just saying that because it woke me up in the theater, but yeah, I thought it was fantastic, just because it serves to build up these tension-filled moments and build up the suspense when you're watching these three narratives, because you don't know what's going to happen in the end, and it goes from quiet to this slight noise like in the background with, I think you said Christopher Nolan's like watch, and then it just builds up to like this great crescendo that again Hans Zimmer has done before, but I think it was really effective in this movie. So I hope it takes home the award for Best Score.
Now, as with all these categories with Dunkirk, another one where it's stiff competition is Best Director for Christopher Nolan. I think he's my personal choice for this category, although I mean, just all the elements are pulled together so well, and that is, I think, to Nolan's credit. But, like, I think Guillermo del Toro is also stiff competition. I think those are probably two, I think, contenders there. But, like, as we've said, I don't know. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Everybody has a chance to win.
I
honestly think everyone has equal chance to win. I really think this category is the biggest toss-up besides Best Picture. My pick actually is Nolan. I think everything he does in this movie is incredible, and the way he's able to make this project is huge. Dunkirk's scale is incredibly large. I'm sure a lot of people.
I think it's probably the biggest Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, and a lot of people had to work on this, and he had to manage all of that, which I think isn't really a testament to his skills as a leader and as a director. He is my pick, but once again, I mean, anyone who wins this award is worthy.
I would agree with that. All the films have like equal chance of winning. I don't really have much to say on it because I want to say for films that Christopher Nolan has directed before, how many times has he won?
He's never won.
Never? Okay. That's what I thought.
That legacy award.
That's what I thought. So I don't see it happening personally. I think that other films might get that award. So
there's a point where Christopher Nolan is almost too mainstream in a way because he's broken to such critical and commercial success, where like he released this movie in July because it wasn't really like It was just because this was a movie he wanted to make, not necessarily to get Oscars.
Right.
This year's director pool is like extremely mainstream. I think Greta Gerwig is the only indie director. Like, non-film geeks probably haven't heard of Paul Thomas Anderson, but everyone knows Jordan Peele.
I see your point.
Everyone knows Christopher Nolan, and everyone knows.
These are like
Guillermo
household
del
names
Toro.
to a
Yeah.
by now.
Right.
Well,
Hellboy 1 and 2.
Hey, I like those movies.
I do too.
And,
No, I
and
love
Pan's
those.
Labyrinth won Academy Award.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, last but not least, do we think Dunkirk will win Best Picture?
No.
Nope.
No.
I don't think I have to explain.
It's-
We've pretty much covered why, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it comes to story. Technical is so strong. Yeah. All right. Well, go see Dunkirk if you haven't. It's great, especially if you want to be up to date on these technical categories, as well as just see a really great movie that is an interesting take on a war film. So until then, tune into the Oscars on Sunday. Tune into our YouTube page, MUTV E23, to see the coverage on the rest of the Best Picture nominees. But until then, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.